Welcome to another episode of the Office Altering Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast. If you're a returning listener, welcome back. And if you're a first-time listener, hopefully you will become a long-time listener. As always, I'm your show host, Molly McGrath, founder of Hiring and Empowering Solutions and creator of this revolutionary podcast. You can check us out at hiringandempowering.com. So today, my guest, I'm super excited about my guest today, is Cary Colleran of ADHD Navigator. And in the show notes, you can find her website, adhdnavigator.net. Cary, welcome. Thank you for being our guest today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah. So I'm going to give a little backstory of how Cary and I connected and met. So today's theme, we're going to be talking about planning for your worry time. And Cary and I don't know, when was that? 2 years ago, Cary?
Gosh, I think so. It could even be 2.5 years ago now.
Or 3, yeah, because the girls were in middle school when I met you on that field trip, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ella's a freshman now.
Right.
Yeah, they're freshmen, sophomores. Yeah. So Cary and I met, we were on a field trip and we were going to the zoo and we were volunteering and we're in the school prepping and I look at her, she looked at me, I can't remember, one of us said, we don't have to ride that bus, do we?
Thank God.
And I said, no, let's drive together, hop in my car. And so we drove downtown Denver to the zoo to go volunteer or the museum or something. I think it was a museum. And for our daughters that were in middle school at the time. And typical fashion, we're like, hi, who are you? What do you do? And Cary was telling me, oh, I'm a coach. And I, by and large, work with from middle school to college age students that work in ADHD specifically. That's my niche. And I immediately was so fascinated because if any of you have listened to my podcast and or coached with me, you've heard me say multiple times, when I get phone calls from new entrepreneurs, that want to just figure out how they can start working with me, or if they just want some tips and techniques. The number one thing I hear from the entrepreneurial type clients are, I need you to know something. I am ADHD or I have ADD. And I always sort of belly laugh because there's been a book that actually was written by a strategic coach that has a direct correlation between the Kolbe, which many of you have heard me speak about for years and years and years, about the correlation between the diagnosis, the self-diagnosis of ADD or ADHD, and a quick start on the Kolbe spectrum. And what that just means is all entrepreneurs are, they have the squirrel factor. They always say that, they have the attention span of a bed bug and, they would start a new business every day. They get bored with a project within 5 minutes unless they have someone sitting there babysitting them and helping them navigate. And Cary and I kind of had this conversation going down to the field trip. And it's interesting because I had said, we had this great conversation about that. And I said to her, my son, he scores high as a quick start on the Kolbe spectrum, and he really needs a coach. I have a coach. I've always had a coach. I am a coach. I'm a huge proponent of a coach. Would you come and meet with my son and see if it's a good fit? If you like him, he likes you. And if you think, I don't think he's ADD or ADHD or on the spectrum or anything, but he's definitely highly entrepreneurial. He's last minute Larry, and he needs coaching and he wants it. He's been asking me for it, but we haven't found anyone. Cary comes over to my house. They have a lovely chat. And what I love the most, Cary, about what you did is you show up and you don't have a clipboard, you don't have a notebook, you have nothing. And you said, listen, I need to connect with the kids and I don't want them to feel like it's a clinical visit. So you have your meeting, you leave, and he turns around with crocodile tears in his eyes. At that point, he's 18 now, so I think he was 16. And he said to me, where the hell has she been for 4 years?
Oh my gosh. When you called me, I cried. I'm not going to lie. You called me up and you're like, he said, she's my person. And that just sent me over the edge. I was like, because here's this big kid, he's a big lacrosse player. He's, I just love him so much. And when you said that to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I was so happy to start working with him.
Yeah, he's like, finally somebody that gets me. And I think the piece that, like, what was it about? Like, what parts of it? And he had talked about this concept that we're going to talk about today of just you got it and you named it and you understood his world in regards to worry time and anxiety and really being able to manage that. So, talk to us a little bit about this dance between anxiety and worry that I know so many entrepreneurs deal with.
Well, really anxiety and ADHD are really good friends. So, sometimes kids are actually diagnosed as ADHD when they are mainly just have anxiety. Of course, there's just a lot of overlap there. And I really feel at the root of it, anxiety is the inability to tolerate discomfort. If you're out of your comfort zone, you just have a hard time coping. And so, with these kids that nowadays everything seems to be so important. It used to be when we were kids, if you didn't get good grades for one semester, well, you'll make it up next time. Or if you didn't pass a certain class, it's like, okay, well, it's not the end of the world. But now everything seems like it's so important that it just creates this pressure for a lot of these kids that I work with, and they're already struggling. And, with the ADHD piece. So it is a dance. It's a dance between, figuring out what really is important and what things we can actually let go of a little bit. And figuring out how to handle and cope with that discomfort.
Yeah, I know your specialty is working with kids, but I'm sure many entrepreneurs on here that do have teenage children, middle school children, college age students can resonate with that, because for so often I would try to tell Aiden, give yourself a break, et cetera, but it didn't work. And it definitely doesn't work coming from the parent, and bringing in a specialist and a coach such as yourself, that you lend this third party credibility. I always say, I'm just a walking ATM, or the idiot in the corner that doesn't know anything, right?
Yeah, coaching your own kids is never the easy thing to do. And I've seen a meme that says, never in the history of calming down did anyone calm down when you told them to calm down. This is so true.
That is so true. So talk to us about, three concepts that I know in particular. And I learned to back off after Aiden's coaching sessions with you. I'd be like, all right, what'd you talk about? What's your homework? What's your break? And he'd be like, back off. And I remember one of the things that I loved when, after you and I met, after you had your first one or two sessions with Aiden, you're like, here's the deal. Keep your nose out of the parent portal.
Yeah.
Like, you're going to delegate that to me. I'm like, oh my gosh, absolutely. Here you go. Because that was
very many parents like you that I don't need to talk into that. You were like, okay.
Yeah. Because the anxiety would go through the roof the second that I would bring it up. And I would come in hot and heavy, like, where's this missing assignment? Where's this? And it was like pouring gasoline on the fire.
Yeah. Yes. I know. And when he goes through it with me every week, it's, okay, here you are. I don't have that emotional connection to his outcome as a parent does. So I can look at that and say, how do we get here? How do we get from where we are to get over here? What are we doing?
And one of the greatest gifts you gave to Aiden was teaching him three, there's in particular, if you could speak into, of just the triangle, and then naming your worrying monster, and then going ahead and actually scheduling time and knowing you're always going to have your worry time. You're going to have your anxiety time. So plan for it.
Yes, absolutely. You're kind of breaking up on me a little bit here. So hopefully I'm clear on your end, but I'll give it a go.
Yeah. So talk to us about that.
And I'm a visual person. So I think of that little monster sitting on my shoulder, and that's my insecurity. That's my, what if everything goes wrong monster? And that monster starts whispering things in your ear. It starts saying, what if nobody likes you? What if you sound stupid after you say that? What if you're going to be out of control? What if your roommate doesn't like you? Why did you say that? That was a stupid thing to say. All those little things that your worry monster whispers into your ear. So what I try to do with that is, even with my college kids, and I do work with some adults as well, and if they're struggling with it, we name it as well, because I've named mine. So we name that. I have a kid I'm working with that, sometimes they name them something funny, sometimes something scary. A little girl I'm working with named hers Dart, and I guess that's after some cartoon or something. We think, what thoughts are going through our head? What types of thoughts with this situation are going through our head? I'm scared. I don't want to do this. This is too much for me. I'm going to look stupid if I do this. Everyone will laugh at me. All these thoughts might be going through our head that create feelings of fear, feelings of insecurity or anxiety. And what I try to let kids know is, we can't control those thoughts, and we cannot control those feelings. Those are thoughts that they're going to be going, that they're just going to take off and go into your ear. And the only thing you can change are the actions that you do, the actions that you take, regardless of those thoughts and regardless of those feelings. So that's where the magic happens, is deciding, what action can I change, even though I'm having these thoughts and feelings. So that's where the kind of triangle comes in. And then what we do is we just accept it. We're going to have time in our day, or times in our life, that we are freaking out and we're scared and we're worried. And so with kids, sometimes during, times of taking tests and things, I just schedule it in. This is your anxiety week. Okay, we're going to be freaking out this week. And what things can we do to help and nurture ourselves during this week? Do you need to make sure you have snacks available, water on your desk? Do you need certain music going? And sometimes, if it's more severe than that, we have to think, what can we do daily to let these thoughts just resonate for a little bit and to just sit with them? And that's where worry time comes in. And we plan 10 or 15 minutes a day of writing down worries.
So if you picture, I know many entrepreneurs, and you said it yourself, I'm very visual. If you picture that triangle, is it that at the top of the point is your thoughts, or is it
Yes.
and then your feelings, and then your actions?
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. And I think it takes the pressure off of kids. They can't control these thoughts, and they think that everyone else can. And you start feeling that, why is everyone else not having thoughts like this? Why does everyone else not have these feelings? And it takes that pressure off, that you can't control those things. And that's okay. Everyone has a worry monster. It's just that they've decided that even though they're having those thoughts, they still do a different action than you're doing. It's the action that you can change.
Wow. I love that, because I'm even thinking of this morning, I did a training on going live on video, and it's not just for kids, right? Humans, we all, if we don't name our thoughts and our feelings, we've been taught so often to just stuff them down, or to kick them out, or to shame them, or to judge yourself for that. To your point, like, okay, so-and-so is rocking and rolling. They don't look like they're all stressed out and worrying. We both have the same task at hand. There must be something wrong with me.
Yeah. And, I read a book, and now my own ADHD self, I can't remember which book it was, but it was talking about, it listed I think there were 12 or 13 human emotions that are recognized in this, in psychology. And if you put them into the category of positive and negative, most of them people would put in the negative. There's happiness and things like that, but there's also sadness, there's anger, there's jealousy, all these things that people put in a negative column. And that's saying that more than half of our emotional experience is negative. And I refuse to believe that. I think we need to be able to sit with some of those other feelings and just accept them for what they are, instead of trying to get rid of them because they're negative.
Yeah, I know that's one of the greatest gifts that you have given Aiden over the past 2 years. You know, he's 18, and especially during right now, this very, very uncertain time of his school got ended abruptly. You know, he a day before his lacrosse season, senior
Oh,
lacrosse season was supposed to launch, ripped out of his hands. Now graduation canceled. There's even talk. Finally, you helped him. I remember, gosh, him getting into college. And Cary, I'm just like forever grateful for you, not from the grade perspective and getting accepted, but the anxiety he had around the application process and the thoughts and the emotion and all that came up. I don't think he ever could have navigated this time. I couldn't have survived this uncertain time that we have right now without the skills, because he knows, like, I'll see him sit down when he's spinning and he'll pull out pen to paper and just put pen to paper and be like, you know, I have a lot of anxiety, and because I don't have any information about what's next for me. Like, it was last week, I think he said to me, I feel so purposeless. And it just
oh, me
crushed my
too. We
soul.
all do, I think. And it's so insightful when they say things like that. That's when I'm like, oh my gosh, yes,
Right.
that's how we feel.
Without putting that, I love that visual that you said of either negative or positive emotions. Because when he said that, I'm like, buddy, that's really cool that you even know that and that you can even name that. And so why are you feeling purposeless? Why are you feeling? And then he's like, all right, let me go to my triangle. And he really just did a download of it. And at the root of it was just that, you know, he's such a driver, he's in action, what have you. And it was really cool because I'm like, all right, well, think you need to go out to the garage right now because it's a disaster. And I gave him a task and he just got his music on and he was out there for like 5 hours just reorganizing and his whole spirit changed because he got in action. I'm like, you're bored. Like
Yeah.
you don't have any project right now. You don't feel like, you know, he wasn't necessarily sitting with the sadness. It wasn't what was coming up for him at that time. It was just, you know, as Tony Robbins always say, emotions in motion. I'm like, you need a project.
We all need a reason to put on pants.
Yes.
That's the takeaway from this whole experience. You know, you need something to get up and go do and to feel that you've accomplished something in your day. And I think also to be able to, if you are stressed and worried and you're writing things down for a few minutes, even if it's the same thing over and over, to sit with that for a minute. This is stressful for me. I'm having a hard time with this. You know, I'm an extrovert that's trapped in my house. So I get that. And, you know, I get my energy from being with people, and I'm not getting that right now. So to be able to sit with that and acknowledge it helps. You know, I'm going to feel this for a minute. But, you know, it doesn't mean we wallow in it. It means we're acknowledging our feelings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Your thoughts and your feelings. And it's interesting because even like I was saying, when I was teaching this morning, a group of attorneys about going live on video for their marketing initiatives, and there's so much anxiety they have about it. They're comparing themselves to everyone else. And it was cool because I knew we were doing our podcast today and just kind of thinking of the triangle and be like, okay, I get it. Like you can't just stuff down these feelings. You really have to name them. You really have to put pen to paper and sit with them for a minute because they're not going to go away. I think one of the greatest gifts that you've given Aiden is like lock arms and befriend that fear, befriend that worry, and stop thinking of it as a negative or anxiety or whatever is coming up for you, because it's just telling you that you're out of alignment, like you're incongruent with who you know you are and what you're capable of it, but naming it and just be like, all right, I got anxiety around this. What can help shift it and move it? And I like that 10 minutes that you say, plan 10 minutes of worry and to journal and to write down and sit with it, right?
Yeah. I think it's really helpful. And even, you know, like you said, for adults, for everyone to say, you know, I'm worried that everyone else is going to come out with a better idea than me. I'm worried that people are going to get there first. I'm worried that I'm not going to get this launched quick enough or whatever it is, it just allows you that freedom to just kind of let it all out and see what really is at the root of what's going on.
Wow. And what tips or what could you offer to our listeners in regards to, and I like naming that worry monster because they're sitting on your shoulder always and anchoring to the triangle of your thoughts, feelings, and then identify your actions. Talk to us a little bit about when you do have those emotions and thoughts, but you also have like 5,000 thoughts going on at one time and you either get overwhelmed or paralyzed. Of anything that you could offer up for that?
Wow. Welcome to my brain. I always have 5,000 tabs open. Most of my kids do. So I think the important thing is to, first of all, the low-hanging fruit. I try to talk with my clients about trying to get some success going. So to choose the things to begin with that you can actually take some action on now. For example, if I have kids that are, so stressed out just because they don't have purpose, because their day is going by and they're ticking a day on the calendar, but it's just, it's just another day that was just like yesterday, which was just like the day before. And that's becoming stressful and it's creating anxiety for you. Then I would think, okay, what can we do with that? That's where we should start. What types of things do you need to add into your daily experience to get clarity and to have purpose? So sometimes that's, what type of exercise can I do? Do I need to be out walking? Do I need to go for a run? Do I need to go for a drive? I know some of my kids like to go for a drive to clear their mind and to really think, what can I accomplish today? And to really, when you're having your worry time, if you have your worry time, that's great. Because after that, you should be able to sit and think of a few things that you can actually do. If you sit with it and you really think about it, what types of things can I do for myself? For me, I've decided to come up with a little list every day when I get up. And it could be, I don't care how small it is. For me, I need to know I did some things today. And there are things that, I joke. I'm like, if I have all day, my house isn't going to be any cleaner. My laundry's not going to get done and I'm going to be fat. And now I do have all day and I don't want things to happen. So after having my stress time, I have my worry time and I'm like, okay, I'm freaking out over some of this stuff. Then I have to think, what can I do for myself today that's going to put me in the right direction? And I've started taking a lot more walks, even just sporadically throughout my day if I'm feeling lost. And I come up with things. I'm going to be working on my website. I'm trying a podcast today, which is outside of my comfort zone. I'm doing new things and I've learned how to Zoom over this experience. Like I'm putting myself out there and checking some boxes to give me some purpose. So to use your worry time to, accept where you are and then move on from that. And that's a launching pad now. What am I going to do with this? How can I take this information and use it to propel me in the right direction? And it could be something small, the low-hanging fruit to start with, so you see some success.
And then I like that too. I think I'm pretty sure you're the one who taught Aiden this, 20 minutes of exercise, the benefit for the following day's anxiety or worry. Is that right?
Yeah. I work with, I'm not a psychologist, or a therapist. So what I do is I work very closely with people that are, because a lot of my kids see a variety of people. And so it really helps me to have that network. And my anxiety specialist, that's all she does. She said, it's like medication it's just that it doesn't last as long. So some people do still need medication. I'm not trying to throw dirt on that, but to get that, 20 to 30 minutes of cardio, actually getting your heart rate up, it actually helps you for the next day. So, that's where you need these routines, and we all need routine. But a routine of getting that cardio is going to be helpful for you for the days after that.
And do you think that with incorporating that it will help you with maybe having less thoughts and ideas because you're kind of managing those compartments, if you will, and keeping your energy level at a consistent. Do you notice that when you implement that coupled with your worry time, that maybe you don't have 500 ideas, you might have 100 ideas?
You know, I need exercise in my day, and it does help me go through things, and it helped. I don't know if it creates that much order, but it creates more order. I get ideas that are going to help me manage all of these things going on for me. That's what I get out of when I exercise. Like I get these little epiphanies when I'm pushing myself and out alone, walking or exercising, that are going to help me to kind of, become allies with my worries. I don't know how to say that any other way, but
yeah, I love it because I think, and the reason I asked the question, because I wanted to just clarify that for people that it's not, sometimes I think entrepreneurs, which again, they do self-diagnose as ADD or ADHD, especially if they're highly, highly innovative and high octane, that they sort of should on themselves or judge themselves or beat themselves up for not being able to control their thoughts and having a million ideas and never being able to finish anything. And it's such a vicious cycle. So I love that you're like, no, not necessarily. Like, I have epiphanies and ahas and clarity, and then it helps me with staying on task. But I love that, there's no delusion that you're going to have less ideas. It's just helping you navigate them in a way that doesn't completely, short circuit yourself, right?
Yeah. The trick is to remember those ideas when you get home. You have to have little tricks for that. And I also think, ADHD people are not great finishers. We get, I'm excited. I get started on something and then I'm like, I'm done with it now. But we're great starters and there's value there. And that's why so many entrepreneurs are ADHD, is because we get people on board to help us finish things because we have those really innovative ideas. And we also, our impulse control issues kind of come in handy when we launch. I'm going. Like I'm not waiting for everything to be perfect. I'm jumping in now. And in the tech world, you have to be that way or someone else beats you to it. So there's value, there's value there for that kind of a brain for being an entrepreneur.
Yeah. And as you said, so give us some of your tips for remembering them when you're out on your walk or when you're not necessarily sitting at a perfectly orchestrated whiteboard and spreadsheets and all of that jazz. Any ideas of how to remember them and capture them?
I tell all my clients, the only thing they have to remember is that they're always going to forget. And if you just plan for that, it's like planning for worry time. Like I plan for forgetting things. I'm not going to remember. If you tell me something, I'm going to forget. So how can I remind myself? Sometimes I send myself texts. So if I'm out on the path, I might send either that or sometimes I send my daughter a text and she'll be like, what does this mean? I'm like, I just had to send that because I knew I would forget. If I'm somewhere where I can jot something down, I jot something down and I put it in my pocket so I won't forget that. I tell Alexa all the time, Alexa, remind me that I'm going to do, this. And I give her an idea. I mean, anything I can do to send a little lifeline out for my future self, because if I get a prompt, I'll usually remember. I just need the prompt. So I need to, remind me about, that gray cat I saw, and then I'll remember the story, but I have to have a prompt. So I just send my little future self as many prompts as I can.
Oh, I love that. How to send a lifeline to your future self.
Yeah.
That's great. I did the same thing too. I send texts to my kids who are like, stop sending me your work crap. I'm like, it's got to go somewhere. Yeah, those are great ideas. So if you have access to your smartphone, putting it in your calendar, sending yourself a text, sending yourself an email, always having a pen. I have sticky notes everywhere. I love sticky notes. And sometimes I'll even keep a sticky notes and a pen next to my bedstand. So when I wake up at 2 o'clock in the morning, I could write it down and then I could go back to sleep. I don't have to worry about it, or I'll text myself, things of that nature. And it's really funny because sometimes I'll wake up or the next day when I get to my email, I have 15 different emails from myself and I'll leave them in my inbox. And then on Fridays, I clean out my inbox. And by Friday, so I might have sent it on Monday or Tuesday. By Friday, I'm like, oh, that's a stupid idea. Delete.
I always used to have a notepad by my bed too, just to let things out. Cause I obsess on really random, stupid things at bedtime, like, electric knives. Like, why did those even ever exist? Like, did we think that the meat was going to be that dry that we had to, I would obsess on it. I couldn't let it go. So I would have a notepad just to write it down and allow myself to just be done. I also, sometimes I do tell people to remind me, like if I'm with a friend and we're walking, I'll say to that person, can you remind me this when we get back? Because I'm going to forget. And that's fair.
Yeah, you brought up a good point too. I love that. So one thing I would say for even our entrepreneurial listeners is that, or if you're a support team and you're working for a high octane entrepreneur, don't take, I see this so often, don't take the responsibility. So what I mean by that is if somebody says, oh, can you send me blah, 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 I always give it back to the person and say, no, I will absolutely forget that. You need to send me a message. And I don't think that's disrespectful. I don't think it's arrogant. I think it's really not abandoning yourself and being able to deliver on the promises that you give to people. So I often say, if I'm facilitating a coaching call or what have you, and I'll hear, the attorney or the entrepreneur say, blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah, I'll do. I'm like, no, I'll say right to their assistant, do not even let them write that down on a piece of paper. You take it from them and you do that, or you remind them, or you put it in their calendar just to give yourself some grace. We all know how each of us are hardwired. And then if any of this conversation is resonating with you, it's so often people are like, well, I don't want to seem like I'm arrogant or I'm treating people like my assistants. Like, no, people just, your goal is to serve on your integrity and to deliver and do what you say you're going to do. And you know what works for you and how you can manage it best.
And once I recognized I'm never going to remember, and I just, there's worse things in the world, right? It's not like I'm an axe murderer. I'm not going to remember this information. Once I remember that, then I always now do just put it in my phone right away. I just put things on my calendar right away. I don't wait because I'm not going to remember that later. I have all the best intentions and it's not going to happen for me. So, to say to somebody, you know what, I need you to go put that on my calendar right now is, I think, a valuable thing to be able to do. If you can't get to your own phone, don't pretend like you're going to remember later.
Yeah. And how freeing is that? Once you don't judge yourself, that's not going to happen. You don't beat yourself up for it. And you just find these tips and tricks that you can surround yourself with to serve as what I love that you said, a lifeline.
Yeah. And I think too, with kids that are, feeling these things do create anxiety. Oh my gosh, I can never remember. Why can't I ever remember to turn my homework in? Why can't I ever remember to, whatever it is. And once you accept that about yourself, it does take pieces of that anxiety away from it. This is okay. I need to find strategies. It doesn't mean I can just forget, but it means I need to find strategies around this because this is not my strong suit. This isn't where my strengths are. So what strategies can I find to compensate for that? That's where the power lies, is to find what strategies work. And, for worry time or anything else, for parents that say, oh, don't worry about that. Oh, don't worry about that. That's easy. That's how hard can it be? That'll be fine. They're worried. So your worry time is on their own and they're not being judged for what they write on there. And they're allowed to just have that moment. And those are worries, whether they're easy for someone else or not. These are things that are hard for them.
And acknowledging that so often, I'm like, your ears must be bringing them around. I'm like, damn you, Cary, because I'll always say that. Don't worry about that. Don't worry about that. And Aiden will stop me dead in my tracks. That is not helpful. And he'll say, I am going to worry about it. And this is what I'm going to do. So he'll talk about his worry hour. And Talk to us a little bit about, in closing, about how to schedule that anxiety hour, week, what have you, when you know you have a big presentation, you have a big, test week or whatever it might be that would resonate. What would you say in closing for us of how to navigate? And when you're scheduling that anxiety week, you know it's a big week, you have a presentation, you're sitting for the bar exam. What are some, surrounding yourselves with your creature comforts, but during that time when you're sitting down to keep yourself moving and just accomplish what you have to in that high stress, high energy time?
Well, when I set up anxiety weeks with kids, it's because they procrastinate. So, and instead of pretending like we're not going to procrastinate this time, we accept it. You have all the best intentions, but you're probably going to procrastinate. So let's just plan for it in case you do. This is plan A, is you're not going to procrastinate. And we're going to start way out here to get this project or presentation done. Plan B is 3 days before it's due, you're going to be freaking out. So we're clearing your calendar for that. We're going to put that's going to be that's our anxiety time. Because that's when you're like, oh my gosh, I didn't do this. So that's the first piece. And the second piece is just acknowledgement that it exists. And the second piece is, what do I need to do for myself to stay on task, to kind of make some arrangements beforehand to think, and it's different for everyone. So that's coaching, right? Like it's not the same for each person. Otherwise we could read a book and we'd be sorted. But for me, I cannot, if I am in anxiety time, I can't have my phone in my office, period. It has to be gone. I can't handle sounds it makes. It's very sparkly to me and I want to look at it. I need to close all the tabs on my computer because social media beckons. So I need to take away those things for myself and kind of get into first this, then that mindset. First, I'm going to finish this piece of this that I've put for myself, this piece of this presentation. And then I'm going to take a break and I'm going to watch YouTube or, whatever it is. I'm going to take a break. But to schedule those things into small pieces and give yourself prizes as you go along, is usually really helpful. I don't care how old you are. I want to go for a walk with my friend. So first I'm going to get these emails done and then I'm going to go. That's going to make me get my emails done. Mm. So that's kind of the little tricks and then really having, the kids I work with can really get into hyper focus. And so they forget to take care of themselves. How can I get up I might have to have them set alarms and timers to get up and get movement. To get up and get water, to have, lunch that's already prepared in the fridge. I have a college kid that he's like, I just going to make myself a sandwich and it's going to be in there. And I'm like, that's a great idea. But that self-care, they need reminders for that during their anxiety time, their panic, last minute self, so that at least they're taking care of themselves while they're in the midst.
Mm. And you're exactly right. If we could just read a book and be sorted, that would be lovely. But it's coaching, and what works for one will not work for the other.
Exactly. If we could read a book, you and I would just be out of business.
Yeah. Yeah. I tell my attorneys that all the time too, their assistants, what works, what do you know about you, what works for you? I'm the same way as you. I need my cell phone completely confiscated and I need someone to sit with me and babysit me. And I always race the clock. So I have to create this presentation. I know it's going to take me about 2 hours. Well, great. I'm going to set the clock for 90 minutes and I'm going to beat the clock. Then I'm going to get up and I'm going to go for a walk, go to yoga, go get something to eat. And then I'm going to come back. But I always have to surround myself with accountability. Let my assistant know, okay, great. I got 90 minutes to do the same thing. I can't have any social media or anything because I definitely have shiny object syndrome.
Yeah. And accountability is huge. And when you get kids that are in sports, those are kids that usually do respond to accountability. They're accountable to their teammates. They don't like to look bad in front of other people. They care what their coach thinks. So you can start using things for that. And what you talked about, gamification of beating the clock and things like that, that is a really useful tool for a lot of people. And using a body double. A lot of people work better in a coffee shop if they're surrounded by other people. Even if those people don't care about what they're doing, they feel held accountable anyway. I know I'm like that at the gym. If I'm on the treadmill and I'm cruising along, if somebody comes in the treadmill next to me, I bump it up a notch. I don't want to look like a slacker. And that's human nature. So, I do have kids that might sit in a room with someone else, even though they're not working with that person. And it's because they feel accountable, even though the other person isn't paying attention to them.
Wow. Wow. Well, I think that is a great stopping point for us. So hopefully you're taking some tips away from here, gang, in regards to working with your circle and just planning time. 10 minutes is all it can take to plan your worry time, to journal, to name it, and to really release and identify those thoughts and those feelings so you can get into action. I love, Cary, that just scheduling time for your anxiety hour or your anxiety week as well. Thank you so much for this amazing episode and just sage wisdom in regards to that I think resonates across the human race as a whole, especially now.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This was a really fun experience.
Yeah, I cannot say enough. I am going to do a plug. If you are a parent and you have a middle schooler, you have a high schooler, you have a college student. I know my child is getting ready to go off to college, hopefully in August, and he absolutely will be doing FaceTime coaching with Cary. It's completely transformed Aiden and I's relationship because it's no longer, I'd say 85% of our conversations were all geared towards me trying to coach him and hold him accountable. And it was about school. And it was so incredibly stressful. And he's a good student. He's very, very bright. It wasn't that. It was just my communication around it. And me bringing my high, energy and anxiety and worry on it and basically dumping it on his already heavy backpack of anxiety, worry, etc. So he's truly carrying the weight of the world unnecessarily.
And he's such a cool guy.
Oh, well, thank you. I think so.
I hope these kids get to go to school, go off to college in August. Fingers crossed.
My, oh my. Yeah. Definitely sending that positive energy out to the universe.
Yes, me too. I'll send that with you.
Okay. All right. So in the show notes, I will have how you can connect with Cary Colleran and reach out to her and have a chat to see if maybe this might be a good fit for you. Hopefully, you took a lot of great tips to stop judging yourself and shaming yourself for having procrastination, worry, anxiety, anything, and be able to navigate it. I love the name of your business, ADHDnavigator.net. So, Cary, thank you so much for being with us today. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much, Molly. We'll see you soon.
Okay, great. That's a good stopping point for us. It's been another episode of Hiring and Empowering Solutions podcast, where legal dream teams of entrepreneurs in an entrepreneur's world really do come true. Until next time.